I'm Chief Cheryl Victorian. This is Waco PD on the beat. Whether it's crime or just getting to know the Waco Police Department, we're here to talk about things that matter most to you.
Hello, Waco, and welcome to Waco PD on the beat. I'm Sierra Shipley, the Public Information Officer.
And I'm Officer A.J. Smith, the Crime Stoppers Coordinator for McLennan County.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode. We actually have a really exciting episode because we're here to talk about crime stats, but not in the sense of what the crime stats are, but how they're generated.
The cool people that do all the behind-the-scenes stuff that give us the numbers we talk about.
And I would say the cool two people, right? There's not many more of you.
Guys, right?
There's only two of you. Only two. So we have Brett and Angie on with us, and they are our crime analysts, is their title. Is that your official title? Crime analyst?
That's the shortened version.
The shortened version? What's the long version?
Criminal intelligence and analysis. Some people call us intelligence analysts. Some people call law enforcement intelligence analysts. Some people call us criminal analysts. I always just say intelligence analyst because it's a broad statement that covers them all.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Have you guys ever watched Arrested Development?
No.
Okay.
Never?
No.
Oh, man.
You know where I'm going with this?
I didn't know where you're going with that one, but we'll skip it for now.
Yeah,
it's fine. They
I
won't
like
know.
doing this, so I don't want to make that joke. We'll talk later.
Okay.
Well, before we get into kind of what your job is day to day, let's give a little bit of a background on both of you and as far as how you came to work here at Waco PD. So, Angie, why don't you go first and kind of explain how you got to this position?
I have been a city employee for about 17 years for the police department. I started off my career as a crime scene technician, and then the police department added these two positions, and I put in for them and got one of the two.
Brett, what about you? How did you get into a crime analyst position?
I was born here in Waco, but I joined the military when I turned 18, where I got into intelligence. For about 8 years, I did that. Then I got a job with Department of Homeland Security in El Paso. And eventually, we just want to come back to Waco. So I just happened to search online one day and saw that Waco had a posting for a criminal intelligence unit and applied, and boom,
All right.
back in my hometown.
Very good. So
Awesome.
do you guys like numbers? It's kind of a qualification that someone needs to have for the job?
I like to tell programs to tell me what numbers are.
Okay, very good. Very
Right.
good. So like we said, there's two of you in this team. But what is a crime analyst? How would you explain your job to kind of a random community member on the street?
I would tell them that we analyze data and try to make a picture out of it. So we take tons and tons and thousands of points of data and trying to turn it into a product that is easily digestible by anybody.
Right. You guys are constantly posting. We have our monthly crime stats you guys can find on the wacopolice.com website. We have our quarterly stats and, of course, those yearly ones too. But that's not only what you're doing, right? So what are some other maybe numbers or projects you guys have that are kind of your day-to-day work?
Oftentimes, we have investigators reach out to us and request that we assist them in their caseload, whether that be analyzing cell phone records or creating bulletins for them.
So I didn't realize that detectives would reach out to you guys. I thought you were more of reactive or kind of like, hey, this is what has happened. This is the trend we're seeing. So you're actually helping with the investigations as they're coming in too. Not so much like we're seeing this issue in this area, so maybe, because I know you guys have sent things out there like this might happen.
Correct.
It's
both.
Okay. That's cool. I learn something new every time we do one of these. So.
Option D, all of the above.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd say it's a good 50-50 mix between 50% admin stats and then 50% case support.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so what are some things in those monthly and quarterly updates that anyone can find online? What do those stats usually consist of?
A snapshot of our violent crimes and nonviolent crimes for the month and year to date.
Okay. And usually you guys are also dealing with open records requests as well.
Yes, ma'am.
How often do those come in?
That's kind of hard to say. They're kind of sporadic. I would say maybe 5 a month that come in from open records.
Okay. And they can kind of be either a real complex request or maybe something a little bit more simple? They kind of range for what data you need to get?
Yes.
Yeah, I just got one from UT just asking for all crime that's happened within a 1 mile distance of every building that they own.
Oh, my.
Oh, wow.
So that would be a little more complex one. Usually open records will try to handle the smaller. If anything gets a little too tough, they'll send it our way to dig a little deeper.
Okay.
So on those open records requests, like if somebody, I don't know how many buildings UT has, but if they've got like 100 buildings in town, does it have to specify the addresses, or are you guys nice enough that if they give you their name, you look up what they own, or how does that work? Like how specific
They have
is
to
that request
specify.
need to be?
Yeah,
Okay.
so they actually mailed a letter, and on the letter it lists out every building that they have some kind of involvement with, and or students are present at some point, and they do the crime stats within a 1 mile radius of it.
Right. I mean, I guess depending on the information they're trying to get, you either have to be really specific with what you want, or you're going to get something that's pretty broad, right?
Correct.
Right. Yeah, it's as simple as saying if you ask for assault, there's a big difference between a simple assault and an aggravated assault. So you're either going to have hundreds and hundreds, or you're going to have 20.
Right.
So you do need to be as specific as you can.
And that's probably what not a lot of people realize is it's just kind of like, hey, tell me how many, of course, gun violence has been a big topic recently in our city. And so I'm sure there's plenty of, I know I've gotten questions with, hey, how many, cases involve guns? I'm like, well, what do you mean? Are we talking about stolen guns? Are we talking about guns used in robberies? Are we talking about, displaying the weapon, or even was it used? Was it not used? It gets kind of nitty gritty for things like that. So what is the, I'm sure we have a lot of different programs that are, I'm sure you guys aren't calculating these numbers, and we're using more than just spreadsheets, right? So how complex is all the sorting and calculating of the data?
It's not too hard as long as you've been doing it for a while, I think. I think Excel spreadsheets is probably a big factor, a big help. You can quickly move around data to view it how you want. But one of the main programs we use is called Crystal, and that's we write formulas and such to pull data from our management systems, from our record management systems, and then turn that data into something pretty that everyone can look at. So the really nice map or the really nice product that someone looks at could have taken us a week to make, through all the digging and cleaning process that we have to do, because data is not always perfect.
Right. And that's something that's really important to talk about too, is that data is not always perfect, even our data. How often, or I know there's almost a disclaimer on every piece of data that we give out. Talk about that disclaimer and what people have to realize when they're looking at our stats. The Take Me Home program is a free service available for all residents of McLennan County for adults and children who may have difficulty communicating due to a developmental or cognitive disability. And this database is maintained by the Waco Police Department Communications Division and is only accessible to law enforcement personnel to have vital information if encountered by an officer in our area. The Take Me Home program is available for any adult or child who has difficulty communicating. And you can do so by signing up on the Waco Police website at wacopolice.com.
So when we provide stats, the status of that report can change over time during the investigation. So for example, we could have a report that started out as a B&V, and then as an investigator goes through the report and does their investigation, they determine that it should actually be a theft of a firearm because a firearm was taken in that B&V.
Okay.
So how does that affect the stats you guys give? Because I imagine in the CAD, the dispatch program that sends it to the computer for the officer, it says burglary of a motor vehicle. But then by the time the investigation's done, it could be the theft of a firearm or something different. What are you pulling from for, I guess, like your final report, where it's like to present the numbers or make the maps and all that stuff? What does it matter what you use, or how do you choose?
So to present the offense count, we use the offense report, not necessarily the calls for service call types.
Okay.
Because that, like you said, can change.
Right.
Okay.
Especially that initial call for service. There's plenty of times where someone calls us for something, an officer gets on scene, and it's entirely different.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Right. And we always state that data is only valid for that day. So
Okay.
that
Okay.
date of that we pulled it is the date that's valid, because it could be different the next day.
Right, right. Does data
Okay.
change frequently?
Yes.
You said that
Definitely,
really
yes.
fast. So, like, how frequently? Like daily, hourly?
It's really the smaller events. Obviously, the larger ones don't change as often, but the smaller ones do, because when a citizen calls it in, they don't know what to call it. So the dispatcher is going to label it as what the nearest thing is to what they're being told. And then an
Okay.
officer shows up and says, oh, that's not a burglary of a building. It's a burglary of a habitat, right? A habitation. So
Right. Interesting. And now we always also talk about the fact that if it's going to be something like an open records request, you might be able to get data kind of year to date, so to speak. But with our stats that are monthly and quarterly, we're a few weeks or a month behind. What is the reasoning for that? Why is that something that we can't just generate day of every day?
So we're unable to post our daily crime reports just because of the way our officers enter their reports. So they have to call in and do a dictation of their actions that they took for that specific case. And then that dictation stays in a queue, and our records department has to then transcribe that record, which can take maybe 10 days. So we can never post anything that happens daily,
Right.
just
right.
because of that delay.
Okay. So it's nothing, I mean, because that's what a lot of people ask too, is why isn't, something being posted daily or would it be? But there's a lot of manual labor, I guess, that goes into that as well. It's not just kind of a computer where you click a button and then it generates and it can populate over there. It's a lot of manual data from our records department, and then from our records to getting to you guys, and then from there kind of it sorts itself out.
If it's a higher offense, that'll get pushed up in the queue a little quicker. So murders will obviously get pushed up higher than a criminal mischief.
Right.
So, how does putting that information out affect, like, I know some of our investigations, we don't give out a lot of information because we don't want to taint the witnesses and say, hey, like, this is what's happened. And then the witness is like, oh, that's right. That's what happened. And what I actually remembered is slightly different now. So, like, you guys are mostly dealing with numbers. So, do you have to worry about that kind of impact on the witnesses? Is that another factor that?
I don't think I've ever worried about that.
Okay. Because I know, like, when I've talked to some of the investigators about, hey, like, if you want Crime Stoppers to do a PSA for your whatever incident just happened, they're like, well, we're wanting witnesses to come forward on their own, not put out information first. So I didn't know if.
Well, we typically don't release information to the public. Everything that we do is mostly internal.
Right.
It goes to law enforcement only partners.
Okay.
Or it goes to the PIO, or so it never. Yeah, we don't bulletins. We send those to the detective for approval, and we send them out internally.
Right. And those bulletins are either wanted suspects, vehicles stolen, things like that.
Correct. Just going to give you some near real time intelligence out to the patrol.
Yeah.
Right. And the only
Like
thing,
the ones you guys sent out this morning.
Right.
yes, they come frequently.
Yeah, I don't think that was something we mentioned you guys did earlier, but like our wanted posters for people to be on the lookout for certain things. You guys create all that information, and I guess all the text on there is coming from the stats you're pulling and
That's right.
information that you guys are gathering for us to help keep us safe when we're out there.
Right. Is there a reason that that's kind of under your job description?
I don't think there's a particular reason. I just think it's because we man the computers. So
you man the computers and know the numbers.
Yeah, we're on duty. You know?
Right. That makes sense. Well, we have it's not out. Well, it might be out by the time that this episode comes out, but we are working on a new interactive crime map, is what I've heard. And it's to generate maybe not real-time data, but maybe a little bit more frequent data as far as so people don't have to wait for those monthly crime reports to come out. Talk about that crime map and kind of how that whole process started.
Yeah, so we are creating a community crime map with our geoinformation system department. So shout out to them for all the help. It won't be real time or near real time. It'll be as updated as we normally get reports in. But we're hoping that citizens will be able to go online, type in their address, maybe look around where their place of business is, or if they're looking to even move to Waco, they can go to this website, check out the area, see what's going on by offense, by neighborhood, by crime type against person, society, or property. So it'll have a good handful of features available. And if we can get any feedback from citizens, that'd be great. Let us know what everybody thinks.
There's plenty of places that if you wanted to send feedback, especially about that new interactive crime map, that's something that you can definitely do. Do we know what the website URL is?
It will be wacocrimemap.com.
WacoCrimeMap.com. Easy.
You'll
Even
also
I
be
can
able
remember
to.
that.
No, yeah, it's gonna be tough. You'll also be able to go to the City of Waco website, go to the Waco Police Department section, and it'll be right there on our page as well.
Okay, very
So-
good. Is this kind of the first time we've had something like this for the city?
It is. It's the first time I know of.
Right.
So we used to use a similar program internally for it, and now we're just gonna kind of let citizens free and open the gate.
How important is something like this interactive crime map? Why is it something that could benefit the community or maybe help the community in different ways than not having one?
Well, I think one of Chief's big goals was transparency. So I think it really builds a foundation off of that and the citizens and the police department to show them this is what's going on in your city. So
How what are the types of crime that people could look at this in this map?
So it's broken down into 3 categories: crimes against persons, crimes against property, and crimes against society.
Okay. And then from there it'll be kind of maybe like aggravated assault or theft or
Yes.
okay. Very good. Very good. I know I was kind of looking through it. It's really cool. You guys, we can narrow down whether it be a specific neighborhood. You can search a specific address. There's a whole bunch of different searches that you guys can do, which I'm sure you've put a lot of work into. So
So is it basically just mapping the Christmas tree? So it's different than the one that's going out already.
So it maps the crimes, the NIBR's definitions of crimes, which are found in our quarterly report.
Okay. Cool.
okay, very good. How many crimes is that? Because when I was scrolling through, there's a lot.
15 to 20, probably?
15 to 25
It's
maybe?
in the range of 15 to 20, yeah.
Yeah. I know you have to like sit there and count them all now.
So if we were to break down every crime,
Right.
like if theft was theft over 100, under 100, simple assault, aggravated assault, it would just be too much. So
Right.
some of the crimes are lumped into one
Mm-hmm.
one definition.
Right.
But
Because
any
it would
ti-
look pretty crazy.
Exactly. But if a citizen clicks on one of the icons on the map, it'll have a definition of what that crime is and what's going on. So
Right, right.
It's-
Now, when I was looking at the website, I know that there was a lot of probably it's kind of overwhelming at first, I would say, to look at the whole city and then you see all the different crime there. I think from a civilian standpoint, it would be smart to focus on a certain area than the whole city because it does get very, I guess, kind of confusing a little bit when you're trying to look at all of the city stats.
you won't even be able to see the city of Waco. It'll just be a bunch of icons.
Right, right.
So if you load every crime over the last 30 days, it's going to fill up almost everything. So you definitely want to narrow it down to what you're looking for. Maybe it be violent or nonviolent or even just your specific address.
Right,
Zoom into the area.
Does it do like the one we had in the cars, like a hotspot map where if there's like a concentrated area, it's a different color? Or
It doesn't have any hot spotting features. It'll just show the icons.
it's just
and,
dots where things
Right.
have happened? Okay.
and the icons are interactive. You can click on them and they'll pop up and give you a case number.
Oh, wow.
So if you want to know a little more information, you can put an open records request and say, I have the case number. Can you let me know a little more about what happened nearby my house?
What I liked about the website too is it gave the definition of what the crime is.
Right.
So not necessarily what happened, but what criminal mischief means or what theft means, because
Right.
sometimes it's kind of confusing. Where I know we've explained many times the difference between a theft, a robbery, and a burglary. All different, but they all kind of sound similar.
Right.
So that was something that I thought was really cool as well.
Is it like a penal code definition, like unlawfully appropriate one of their property, or is it
It's the definitions
stole
from
someone
NIBRS.
from NIBRS? So it's a little different. Then?
So it's
Yeah.
defined by the FBI.
So it would be the nationwide.
okay. So Is that easier to understand? Because I know sometimes the wording in the penal code can be like, okay, let me read that a second time to make sure.
I think the wording was
easy to
pretty
understand.
straightforward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, think of it as like universal time, like Greenwich.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, it's easier to have a universal verbiage than to have Eastern, Central, Mountain. Everyone, you know, has penal codes
Yeah.
differently.
Right.
Okay. Cool.
Very interesting. Well, how has the technology changed since you guys have been at your jobs? I mean, I'm sure it's just grown in the way that you guys are able to like track and manage the data.
I mean, when Angie and I showed up, we had no technology.
Oof.
So we had a mapping program that we didn't know how to use, and
Excel.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
gosh.
Excel, which we were familiar with Excel, but we built the unit from the ground up. I think the first year or so, we maybe had 100 requests, and now we're pushing 600 a year,
Wow.
pumping
That's
out
incredible.
probably around 500 products, assisting in over 300 cases. So it's pretty
lot.
cool. We've grown a lot. Every year we have growth,
Mm-hmm.
and every year we come up with new ways to do products and create things that are a little easier to understand and find
Right.
ways to help
Right.
in any way possible.
Interesting. So as you said, you have 600 requests. Is that just requests from the public? Is that internally and externally?
That's going to be internally and externally. The requests, can range from taking us a few hours to taking us a month. We have requests that are open for months at a time because it takes that long to build it. And the whole time we're trying to prioritize. If chief comes in and says, I need this, well, you got to get that
Right.
to her
You're going to
quick.
get that to chief
So
real
everything
quick.
gets stopped. If we have a detective who has a murder case, that gets a higher priority, right?
Right.
So sometimes those lower level priorities they don't get handled as quickly, but we're trying to get them done. There's only 2.
Well, you guys are doing a good job. I
Appreciate
gotta
it.
say, and even from coming from kind of reporter side to being here at the department, I understand now that when I would ask Sergeant Bynum now, hey, can I get like these numbers? And he'd say, yeah, I can get them to you. And I would give him some grace in a few hours. I'd be like, hey, where are my numbers? And so I understand now why it takes a minute to kind of find those and work through them.
Yeah, it may not take a long time to get your numbers, but we have something on a higher priority.
Right, exactly.
Traditionally, Crime Stoppers is only able to pay up to $2,000 on a tip if it leads to a arrest. But in order to help combat the gun violence that our community is experiencing, Crime Stoppers is paying up to $1,000 just for the recovery of a firearm that's illegal. So anything that's used in the commission of a crime, stolen, or otherwise illegal can get you up to $1,000. By submitting a tip through the newest method provided by Crime Stoppers USA, you can call *tips from your mobile phone, which sends you a follow-up text with a link to provide follow-up information at any time. As always, you can visit online 24/7 at wacocrimestoppers.org or call 254-753-HELP or 4357 to provide any information on an illegal firearm or any other information which leads to an arrest for a reward of up to $2,000.
So send in a tip, because tipping ain't snitching. What's something that you guys would like the public to remember, just if they do request crime stats from you guys, or as they look at crime stats online, what's something that you just hope that they remember in the back of their minds as they're looking at these numbers?
I would say to be as detailed as possible in your request, to make sure you're giving us what kind of data you're looking for, what format you want it in. Date range is huge. That gets left off quite often.
Right, because if you want 5 years of data, I'm not sure you're going to want that.
Right.
But if you don't tell me, I don't know what to give you, So you might get 4 gigabytes, a 4 gigabyte Excel spreadsheet emailed to you.
Oh, my goodness.
Right.
Right. Do any of these requests, either depending on how long it takes, is that something that the public would have to pay for at some point?
That's something that open records would have to determine.
Right.
I know they do charge if it's an extensive amount of time. I don't know if I want to say it out
Right.
loud, but
Yeah.
like anything that gets put on a CD, a USB, I think if anything takes us a certain amount of time, I don't know the charges.
I think
though.
open records has to disclose how much they
Right.
would charge, and then
If it's
the
a-
requester
if it's-
decides if they want that request
Right.
to be moved
So
forward.
basically, if we're going to do like a crazy exorbitant amount of information, all of the department's information of all time, maybe that might be something that has to be relooked at or maybe even narrowed
Right.
down.
And as it should, if it takes people 5 hours between both of us, that's a lot of time wasted that we're not working on a case or building something for an internal.
Yeah. Interesting.
From what I remember I think I've done like 1 or 2 open records requests, and it was just fill out this form online, and then it was a lot of back and forth, but they've got a specific window that they have to respond and give something back or say we can't do it. And then like I got a denial letter, but then the next day I got all the data I was asking for. So yeah, like literally whatever the window was, I think it's like a 10-day window that they can respond. On the 9th day, I got this letter that was like, we can't do that. And I was like, that's weird because I don't feel like I asked for anything confidential.
Oh, you weren't asking Waco PD. You were asking a different police department?
It was the city of Waco.
You got denied by the people you work for.
But it was not for a work thing. I was just curious about something, so I did an open records request.
Ah.
But
And
that's
then
good.
got
Everyone should do at least one open
See the-
records
Yeah.
request.
Right, you
to
saw
see
the process.
Yeah.
I was curious. Like, it's probably something I could have called someone and asked, but I was like, no, I want to know how this works.
All right.
Right, there's a lot of
And then if I use those numbers, I can't be told, well, why did you use PD info? I'm like,
right.
But yeah, it was a very interesting process because I got this very lengthy email that was like, you can't ask for that information. So I called and I was like, I don't really understand this email. And then the next day I got the information. I was like, that's so weird because yesterday you said you can't do that and it was going to take too long. And then today I just got like 300 pages of stuff to read through now.
That's probably something I'm sure a lot of people are shocked by too, is when they do ask for information and then the amount of data you give, maybe depending on what they asked.
That's why Angie mentioned to try to narrow down your date range. 'Cause, if you're going to ask for thefts in a certain area over a year, you could get thousands.
I don't want to read through all
Right.
those.
Nobody does.
Right. And it's also hard for you guys to guess too, because then I'm sure that person that is requesting the information, if they didn't give maybe all of the date ranges or things like that, you go ahead and guess, you give them back the information, they get upset, maybe have to request something again. It just takes a longer process.
Exactly.
So just be as specific as possible.
And you can't call people to ask like, hey, what did you want specifically? Like you just have the form, right? That's like,
That's right.
this is the data, and then you give it to open records and they give it to the person, or give it to legal and they give it to the person, I think.
Yeah, but I would say out of all of our job functions, that's probably the smallest one.
Really?
Yeah, not a
Oh.
lot of the open rec. Like she said, about 5 a month. We're
Okay.
definitely dominantly case support and support for executive staff
Yeah.
for their presentations, their city council meetings, and things like that, getting their stats ready for anything they want to talk about. One of the big ones was doing stats for hiring more officers, using stats to prove, hey, we need help,
Right.
and this is why. So
Okay. Well, that's really important information too, to
Sure.
know that I wouldn't even think of you guys even having those stats, as far as having stats to back the fact that we would need more officers.
Based on our call
Call
load
load,
and
yeah.
response times and hold times.
So we take other cities, what they call sister cities, we look at their stats and say, okay, they have 500 officers getting this amount of calls. We have 300 officers getting this amount of calls. We need 50 more officers to level that out, or I'm just using an example.
Right.
But
So how does that work for you guys to get that info from them? Is that because they're a sister city, we've got that open relationship, or are you
Yeah.
having to request that info? as well?
and we're both a part of the Texas Law Enforcement Analyst Network. Angie's on the board for it, right?
Right.
Nice.
So we know I've been doing law enforcement in Texas for about 14 years now, so I know a lot of people.
Wow.
Angie's been doing it for a long time. She knows a lot of people. So we can usually just make a call, and if not, then we'll put in an open records request to another police department
Right.
and hopefully not get a denial letter.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you guys would be I would think be pretty specific on your requests.
Exactly.
They probably know when a crime analyst is requesting information, because they're like,
Yeah.
wow, this is great.
This is actually what we need to be able to do something for them.
Exactly.
Well, very good. Well, if someone wanted to be a crime analyst, what's something you would say to them as far as, hey, just so you know, this is what the job is like, or what's something that you think would be beneficial for them to know if they wanted to be a crime analyst one day?
I would say get your foot in the door, whether it's an internship or doing another job like I did, because I was able to get a lot of experience doing that other job that helped me out with my current job.
Okay. Yeah.
I think getting, like she said, experience. Military was the avenue for me. They have tons of intern programs federally as well. And we actually currently have an intern in our office.
I was gonna bring that up.
We
It's
do.
kind of is that
That's
like the
cool.
first intern you've had?
It is.
How exciting was that?
She's doing great. She's learning a lot, and it's going to be invaluable. There's nowhere else you can do it in Waco where you can get one-on-one experience with an analyst.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to open that avenue.
Right. That's awesome.
Hopefully we'll keep a little rotation going. you
Yeah.
know,
Right.
Like whenever
she-
semester.
Yeah, whenever she's done.
Mm-hmm.
Heck yeah.
That's very cool. All right. Well, hey, if you like numbers or programs and telling you what the numbers are,
Yeah.
then being a crime analyst might be for you. Or what was the official title? What's on your? What is it again?
Police certified crime analyst.
Police certified crime analyst. Yeah. Start saying that. That's good.
It's a mouthful.
Makes you sound more official.
I've had that title since day one.
It's a lot of words. It's okay.
Yeah.
You guys don't do words. You do numbers
And maps.
and maps and charts and spreadsheets and all that fun stuff.
All the nerd stuff, yeah.
I wasn't going to say it, but you did.
I fully accept that I am full nerd.
Well, thank you guys very much, Brett and Angie, for joining us on our podcast here, Waco PD on the Beat. If you guys have nothing else to say, then we will end it right here. You guys good? Yeah?
I'm good. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time, and y'all have a good day.
You too.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, you guys. I'm Sierra Shipley, the Public Information Officer for Waco PD.
And I'm Officer AJ Smith, the Crime Stoppers Coordinator from McLennan County.
Have a good one, Waco.
Until next time.
Waco PD on the beat. The heartbeat serving